Now, the third point, know when to stop talking. If you talk too much, you're not listening. And if you're not listening, you do not understand the perspective that your customer is coming to the table from. Point number one. Point number two, if you talk too much, it signals that you're nervous. Confident people do not talk all that much. They say what they need to say. Everything is carefully measured and said in a confident manner. Step number three, once the customer has actually made the purchasing decision in their mind, every extra word you say starts to detract from that purchasing decision. So you have to know when to stop talking, when the deal was made. Now, as you are negotiating and you have an idea in your mind and your customer is going to have an idea in their mind, you're obviously going to be trying to find some common ground. And as you get closer to finding common ground, it becomes all the more important to be able to articulate how you do two things really well. One, you reduce the time to getting the result. And two, you make the process easier through any kind of form of automation. You make life easier for the customer, so it's less of a hassle. These two factors are often very great recipes for upsells to the core offer, but can also be factored into the core offer in some types of bonuses that make sense. So let me now talk to you a little bit about the next couple points. You want to also mind your manners and be respectful, because you see, as you're going through this negotiations process, sometimes it might get a little heated, sometimes it might not be as friendly as you want it to be. You have to understand where you are in this overall process and keep your cool. The one that keeps the cool is the one that is going to be in a superior position, because the other one is going to be viewed as losing control, and anyone who loses control is clearly at a disadvantage from negotiations and emotionally just between individuals. The one that loses control is clearly not in a good position. So you want to make sure that you are not being defensive, that when there are objections that occur, you want to make sure you can understand specifically what they are, get clarification, and as you resolve those objections, in your mind, you want to be able to articulate, if I could solve this problem, would you be able to move forward? It's an if-when combination, which is it's a pretty standard negotiation sales methodology, because really what we're trying to do is we're doing a trial close. We're trying to find out if something would be satisfied, would you move forward? Now, the astute customer is going to see this, and they might call you on it. In fact, I was just buying some furniture yesterday, and at the time that I was buying the furniture, someone tried a trial close on me. They did the if-when. And it just so happens that I had fun with the lady. I said, hey, that's a nice trial close. If I do this, would you do this? And then she laughed, I laughed, and we ended up having a good conversation. And in the end, I had a price for what I was willing to pay. She could realize that she wasn't going to get too far with me, and we ended up meeting at a reasonable number. The next thing to keep in mind is that while you might have a number in your mind that would be really great to accomplish, understand that making the deal happen is going to involve an honest give from your side. You need to show that you really want the business. So be willing to go a little bit above your thresholds. Now, that doesn't mean changing your floor. It means it's the difference between a fantastic deal from a margin standpoint and a great deal from a margin standpoint. I do believe in superior margins because ultimately that allows you to provide a superior service to your customers. But in my case, I was willing to increase the amount that I would pay for some furniture by $100. And it was a little bit more than my initial calculation for what I wanted. But at the end of the day, it was something that I felt was fair, still in the realm of being fair. Figure that out for yourself. The next thing that I want you to keep in mind is to figure out where the influence lies in the organization so that you can, one, make sure you're talking to the right person, but two, make sure you're utilizing the right methodologies and the techniques to persuade who it is that you're talking to. Of course, legally and ethically, if you feel that you can serve the customer, I want you to persuade them, because that's what selling is about. Anything less is essentially order taking. So you need to figure out what points relative to the solution you have a unique point of distinction. where you are really, really good in what it is that you do in certain dimensions that are very important to the customer. And the more they can understand that and acknowledge that, the more you will win over your negotiations. Make sure that you have a strong foundation. Make sure that you can demonstrate the value you provide wherever possible. And you also want to be the person driving the conversation. Be the one asking the questions. The one that asks the questions is the one that navigates through the whole negotiation. So that's another key point in mind. Now, if you're on the other side of the equation and someone is negotiating well with you, one of the things that customers can often do is start to break things down into bite-sized pieces and to figure out how they can get the best deal in individual pieces so that the summation of the overall components is in fact the best deal. Now, from the sales perspective, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go down into the itsy-bitsy component level because you basically open up yourself to many more negotiations that you need to. What you need to stay is at the solution level, the outcome level. Don't go down into the bits and bytes of every little component of your offer where they say, how much if I just want that? Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that one. Okay, we locked and loaded on that one. Now let's move to the next one. See, I'm showing you both sides of the equation, from the sales perspective and from the buying perspective. From the buying perspective, you do want to take a look at the components and view that relative to the total solution. From the sales side, you don't, because you open yourself up to additional risk in terms of the engagement. And at the end of the day, this is all about driving value for customers. But depending on the sales situation that you're in, for example, I was in a situation where there is a special procurement organization inside of this bigger company, and their whole job is to drive discounts. And going into that type of a scenario requires that you have a very good understanding of the ROI that you can deliver and a very good understanding of what is a fair open bid, what is a fair floor bid, and knowing where you're going to give up points so that you can maintain your margins and still have a profitable deal. So these are some ideas that I think can help you out. Now,